Yeah, good morning, student. So, uh, very first, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, today we discuss our new programming language, that is a C++, and second type of programming language, that is object-oriented programming system. So, at the start of session, when we discuss about the programming language, so at that time we are discuss. Screen is shared to you or not? I think screen is not shared. No? Just a minute. Okay. So when we discuss about object-oriented programming language, it is an important concept in programming. So, so why there is a need of object-oriented programming language? The very first point about object-oriented programming language is security. We have to concern about security. That means our data must be secure one. Okay. In procedure oriented programming, the only focus is on logic. That means we are output oriented in procedure oriented programming language, but in object oriented programming language, we concern about the security. Second one is that here the object oriented programming provides a modularized programming way. Modularized programming way means what? Here you can divide a program into the different modules which help to find an error or debug error if there are some problem or in code or in there are some problem in our program. So at that time it's make you easier to find out it as the program is in modularized way. So then here object is real time entity. So here the most important term is object. The most important term is object. That means what? Object is a real-time entity. So whatever be the transaction you have to do with the functions or communicate with the functions with each other. So it's all done with the help of object. Okay. So when we are going for some basic structure of our C++ program or object-oriented program, basically we are talking about the object-oriented programming. Basic syntax. So it involves three terms. One is the class, second one is the functions inside the class, third one is the object which are used to call this function. Again, class is divided into a two parts. Class is divided into the two parts. One is public and private. So what's a public and private? So public and private is the access specifier. So there are three access specifier basically: public, private, and protected. Okay, so public, private, and protected are the three access specifier. which are we use in object-oriented programming, depending on the accessibility they allow, accordingly it will execute. So these are what are some types of basic syntax of the object-oriented programming. One more thing about this, that it follow the bottom-up approach. It's just follow the bottom-up approach. That means the main method is written at the bottom, okay, and classes and function is at the top. So it will execute from bottom to top. So by calling mechanism, it will execute it. So these are some basic terminology. We are just again going to details to show what are the features of this programming language. Okay, what are the benefit. So we just take some look on PPT. So it's a relatively new approach, as I already explained, which support the certain new data type and operation to manipulate those types. Okay. So, object-oriented programming in this it provides some type of new data types also, which we are not found basically in procedure-oriented programming. Which those are we are going in detail later on. Okay, so if we say objects, so in short, we can say that the it's a real-time entity. Okay, so real-time entity is that which are directly communicate with the function. For example, if we take the example of class student, so in that case, the student is the real-time entity which are going to execute the properties of the class. Okay, so it just go it just execute whatever be the properties of a class. Okay. For example, if there are the different classes, class of mechanical engineer, class of civil engineer, class of computer engineer. So, student of computer engineer can access all the properties of that specific branch or of that specific class. That means they have the access of doing these or learning the subject of that specific branch. Okay, they can ask the access the lab of that specific branch. Okay, so which mechanical or civil cannot do. Okay, so these are the some we can say that the feature of object that it can access all the responsibilities or the features of the class. Now if we say about the class, so class is what? A class is a basic building block of object oriented programming system. So you just look out the syntax. Okay. So here one is the class, and there are two parts: public and private. So class, if you see this image, you just concentrate on the image. So if you say about the class, so has the two parts. One is the public, another one is the private, and public and private. So generally, private parts contains the data type of the class, whatever the data types we are going to store or we are need to use in our program are stored in the private, because it's a security concern. We need to store our data on the safe side. And public part contains the functions which we are going to execute. So private part contains the data members, or we can say it's a class members. Okay, just like if you say the class student, so class student may contain the name of the student, roll number of the student. So these are the some basic uh, data types which we required for that class. And private, sorry, and public contain the member functions which we are need to access that specific class. So these are the uh, basic syntax or the basic template of the class. So uh, it is good if we go for the programming, so it will be the more clear to you rather than going for the PPTs. I think so. So as I explained, the some basic syntax we just go for to execute it, so we can understand properly how the object call the functions. So in this program, we are just going to create a one class student, and there are some data members, name and roll number, and then we create the object to call this class. So now, as it's a C++ class, okay, so we need to include two files. One is the IO stream, and another one is the conio. Now in C++, if you remember, rather than using a scanf and printf, we have to need to use the cout and cin function. Okay, cout for output the on the output screen to print output, and cin to receive input. Okay, so hash include iostream dot h hash include conio dot h. So class student. Okay, so it has the two parts. One is the private, another one is the public. So it's a private. Here we define int roll number and name. As name is the array of character, or string is the array of character, so we need to define the array. So about array we discuss in previous session when we discuss about the C language. Another one is the public part. Okay. Public contains the function void read. So here have to give output to user cout, enter name and roll number. Cin is the operator, extraction operator and insertion operator. So first one is the name, another one is the roll number. And if there are write operations, so you have need to print all this data. So we have to write a void write. Here we just print out cout name, and name expression can print out here. backslash. Then void main here. Now we have to create the object of class student. So here in main we create just object. So how we create object? So class name followed with the object name, that is s1. So you can create the instance of object. So then we have to mention one function clr. Now s1 dot. We are just trying to understand the structure. Now what is the meaning of code and what is the meaning of all this? We are going in detail for the session. So don't bother about that. Just try to understand the template of this programming structure. So here we create two objects S1 and S2 of student, and it will call the function. So to call the function, we have to use the dot operator. So dot operator are used to call this specific function, and that function will be call out, and the respective function body will be executed. Okay. Private part contains data member. So roll number and name are the data members, and public part contain the functions. So now .cpp remain as it is because it's C++ program. And we just some changes here into main. So it's a name Rahul number 30, and we get the output like this one, name and roll number. Okay. So this is the basic syntax of C++ program. Uh, One thing you have to keep in mind that when the class is over, you have to use the semicolon. Okay, so we have to print give here the semicolon so that it will be denote that the class is over here. Now, in case of C++, we have to mention the return type. Okay. So, as there will be no return type and no value, so we have just define void main. Okay, void main means the function not return any value. So whatever the main we write in our program, so we should predefine it by keyword void, because the main is the part of program where we have to just define the objects. Main is the part of our program where we define the object. We have to just initialize the object. So exactly logics and data we will find in the class template. Okay, here we define the two parts, private and public. Private is the data member, public is the member function. Now, when we create this object, so we call the member function of this class by using these objects. Okay, and this object will define all the mechanisms of the member function. Now, if we have use object s2, so we have to again write s2 dot read s2 dot write. So it will. So now object s2 will perform the operation of read and write. So can I just compile it and run it? So again name and roll number. So say uh, 40, it's name and roll number as per the object s1 call. Okay. When object is to call the read function, again it will give the message that enter name and roll number. Now it will give that the name and roll number of s2 object. So in this way, you can also create the object array of an object. That means if you have a 20 students and 25 students and you have to receive the output or data from 25 students, so you just need here the array of this one. Just like here I use the s5. Okay, now here we have to just define the array of 5 students. So I know that I explained this concept earlier, that uh, whenever you used any, what we can say, that the whenever we use the array in our program, we need to use the loop to execute that array. So whatever operation we have to perform on array, we require a loop only. Without using loop, it will not possible to perform any operation on the loop. So same way, if you have to perform read and write operation for this 5 size of array, so I require for int of I equal to 0, I equal to 4, and I plus plus. Okay. So for 5, start from 0 to 4. I. Okay. So whenever I will replace, first time I equal to 0, so it's of 0, 0th object will read and 0th object will print the output. Then it's of 1, so first object will read and first object will print the output. Then it's of 2, then it's of 3, then it's of 4. Likewise, read and write operation will perform. Okay, so just compile this and I just run this. So name, roll number, again name, roll number, again name, roll number. In this way, 5 times it will receive the name and roll number from the user, and then it will print out this. Okay. So in this way, you can create the array of an object. So array of an object is also the one of the important concept in object-oriented programming system, where you can create the array and receive the input for the multiple objects. You need not to call every object independently or individually. Okay. Now the same program we are just going to increase our data members. So here we will receive the mark of 3 subjects from the user. Okay. So with this name and roll number, you can do one message. See out. One more thing here, I just want to explain you guys. That see out and see in are the operators. It's not a function. Okay. In C language, we are using scanf and printf. So scanf and printf are the functions, but in this, the scanf is printf is replaced with see out and see in, and it's a what operator. So in case of C language, to for the function scanf and printf, we use the header file uh, stdio.h, standard input output. Okay, there is also the term standard input output IO. But in case of C++, we use the term IO stream for C out and C in. So it's a stream, it's a character stream actually. So it uses C out and C in. Okay. So with C out, we use insertion operator. Keep in mind, in C out, we use the insertion operator. So insertion is the way, that means whatever you are type from your keyboard are going to insert on the output screen. Okay. So arrow, you just look out, it's toward the C out. Na? Pointed nodes are toward the C out. This one, if you can see. Point is towards C out. That means the enter name and roll number message are going to print on the output screen. And when we are writing the C in, that means it a extraction. Extraction means what? That whatever be the output we are getting, we to store name and roll number variables. So again, as usual, name and roll number are the variable. Okay, and we are going to extract the values in this terminology about this operator. So more parameters we are going to add here, enter marks of 3 subjects. Okay, so C in M1, M2, M3. Okay. Now we have just some passing criteria that if student is equal to 40 marks, then he will pass, otherwise fail. So for that we use one function void is pass. The name of function is pass. Here strategize is m1 greater than equal to 40, m2 then equal to 40, and m3 greater than equal to 40. Then we will print message here. That's your pass. Okay, but if this condition is not true, that means student is failing any one subject. So what and operator do? And operator only allow to pass in the block if all the conditions is true. If any one is false, then it will not allow to pass in the block. So here see out. That means if you are in else, so okay. So pre you are failed. That means if the condition is not true, that means he is fail in any one subject, then the result will be fail. And here with name, we are also going to print the marks also. So see out in this way. We are just going to print the mark results. So here we just do one more thing with in our program. That means we add the marks parameter m1, m2, m3, three subjects of mark, and then we are declaring the function is pass, which are going to check the student is pass or fail. So the condition is that if m1, m2, m3 both are greater than 40, then he will be pass. Otherwise, the student will be fail. So now to call this function, we require read and write already have this function. That means it receive the marks, okay, and print it. One more function which we are going to check is pass. Here we have to maintain one more function. So is pass. Save, compile, run. So name, now say roll number 10, marks of three subjects, say 50, 60, 70. This is what name, roll number, and marks of student. Okay, so you are pass. So again for second student, let's say Vinay P. So enter name and roll number. So marks of the student 20, 40, 50. Sorry, fail because he is failing the subject. uh, in first subject. So 20. So again name and roll number. So let's Ashish 30 marks of three subjects. This is 6 40 and he's failing one subject 10. Then the result is fail. When there is message enter name and roll number. Again name and roll number because the loop will be going for the 5 times. Marks of three subjects 60. Okay, and here the loop will be ended. So uh, likewise you can write a logic for 5 students, or you can write an number of students also 5, 10, 15, 20. Okay, the number of student is there, so you can just going to add the logic. So if you want that first you have to receive and write and then you have to declare the result at a time, so that it can also be possible. So at that time you just write si.read first. Okay, receive the information of 5 students and then write an is pass. So what you should do, we first receive the information of all the students. Okay, then we are going to define one more loop. Again int I equal to 0, I less than equal to 4, I plus plus. Okay, now what happened in this program, as the object calling mechanism, that means the function will call as per the object call. Okay, so it first receive the information of all 5 students, their name and marks, and then at a simultaneously it will going to print the information of that specific student. So how the output will differ, we're just going to check. Okay, we already use I variable, so instead of I we are going to use a j. Just going to enter the information of 5 students here. These are the printing information. So starting from first name to their result. Okay. So in this way, you can print or access the uh, member functions as per the call of the object. That we have to just maintain the backslash n. So it may also be possible that you have to calculate the percentage of that specific students. Okay, if the student is pass. So the condition is that you can calculate the percentage, but the only when the student is pass. So for that we define one more uh, data member PER because is the floating type. So here in pass condition we just write the logic that float sorry percent equal to, so the logic is simple, that into m3 into 100 divided by 400. Okay, so you can calculate the percentage also, and then you have to print it. So see out percentage and the variable r. Just reduce the number, rather than 5 we are going for 2. Yes, it will save the time. Definitely there is changes in loop also. So 0 1 2 0 1 is 2. Name, roll number, marks, let's say 50 60 70. So when the student is passed you will get the percentage 45, and when he is failed there will be no percentage. There is one mistake, as the subject is 3 m1 m2 m3, so it divided by 300 na 100 100 100 300. So I think we use the 400. So here we have to just use 300. So this is all about object-oriented programming, basic syntax and basic programming. In next lecture, we are going to explain in afternoon session. We are going to explore more about the features of this programming concept. Okay. So I think it's enough for today's session. Okay. So thank you.